Good afternoon. My name is John Cardenas. I'm a professor of psychology and anthropology, and I'm going to introduce Mr. Albert Bose today. He is a gifted individual who has been tested by the University of Central Florida in a book called The Visions of Time. And I'd like to ask him a few questions in regard to his book and the work that he did with Dr. David E. Jones, an anthropologist on the staff at the University of Central Florida. So, Mr. Bose, welcome.
Thank you, John.
How did you get started with Dr. Jones on this project, Visions of Time?
Well, initially I met David. He was driving down the road and I walked out, and my gift just kind of pushed me to go out and introduce myself. And I talked to him, and he said that I had given his sister a reading about her husband, and it was a very intimate experience, and he was very impressed by it. He later was working with some artifacts from South America, and he brought them to me to have me diagnose them and talk about where they came from and what the culture was like. And again, he was very impressed by that. So he felt that I should have a book or a video or something done on my accuracy and my ability to help others.
It's very interesting because I do know that Dr. Jones used those triple blind techniques, which are very difficult, if impossible, to scrutinize because there's such a strong scientific rigor behind them. So how did Dr. Jones use you in regards to your gift with the archaeology? Can you give us an example of when you were on maybe a project with him associated with archaeology?
Well, to start with, he had criticism from his peers, and they kept saying, well, you know him. And so he set up a double-blind, scientifically double-blind experiment at the University of Florida in Gainesville. And they would take an unidentified object and put it in a box. And when I say unidentified, the average person wouldn't know what the object was or where it came from or whatever. And they would put it in a box, seal it, and then a student that didn't even know what the research was would pick it up, carry it in a separate room, set it down, and I would touch the box and then draw a picture of what the object was and then tell where it came from and what it was used for. And again, it was an 87% accuracy, and the students were impressed and he was impressed, which led him to invite me out on a scientific archaeology dig. And I went out there and I walked over this one place and I said, there's a woman buried here. And the students came up with shovels and started digging, and they got down to sterile soil where there was no potsherds. Potsherds are pieces of pottery that the people would use, they would use them and they'd break them and they'd put them there. Like our present day dump, what we call a dump. And there was none there. It was sterile soil. And they said, well, there's no woman there. And they kind of laughed. And I pointed at it, and David said, if Albert says it's there, it's there. So we dug deeper and deeper. And finally they found some pottery. But this was of an earlier time than what they originally was researching for. And I said, well, there's a woman buried there with a ball inside her. And some of the male students started laughing about what I had said. And they dug this person's skeleton up, and it had a baby's skull inside it. And this was very impressive. On the way home, some of the students wouldn't sit near me. They moved away from me. They kept thinking, well, if you can see through boxes in dirt, you can see through my clothes. So that was funny for everyone. And this later turned into a whole series of experiments that ended up in the book Visions of Time, over 4 years of research.
So essentially what Dr. Jones did is he scientifically validated that beyond statistical chance, you have something of a sensitivity, and then he utilized that in his archaeological digs. And you probably have you also done work with the police and law enforcement in different ways?
Yes, one of the things David was trying to show is how many different ways that this gift could be used. Some people assume that I'm a medium and that I'm getting it from spirit, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm getting it from a source of where the spirits get it from. And I worked on several police cases that he had recommended the police to, and in fact, on my website there's a picture of him standing and me standing and a radio announcer with a camera standing next to us. And I was talking about a murder that had happened out on a farm.
That's fascinating. I had taken a few of Dr. Jones's classes, and I've always found that he was very insightful and he could look at research in a totally different point of view.
Very much a real scientist. He didn't guess. He wanted to prove something, and he would prove it.
So nowadays, Mr. Bose, how do you use your gift with your clients?
Well, my clients come to me and they never tell me anything about themselves, and they bring photographs, as many as 10, of people, places, and things that they want to know about. This could be a ring that was stolen, or it could be an uncle that was adopted out, or it could be where their great-great-grandfather was buried. So I get into a lot of different subject matters over the years. I've been doing this for over 45 years. And some people bring pictures of their mate, their husband, their wife, their children, and I give them insight in how they can be more compatible. I don't focus so much on romantic love, because love is an emotion, and emotion is changeable, and love is changeable. But compatibility can grow. You can work it, you can feed it, you can cultivate it to where two people can become very, very compatible. And sometimes I use the background of the lineage of the family and how abusive or complementary behavior affects people throughout their life. And some people would say, well, you could get that from, therapy or hypnosis. But sometimes I tell people, like if their brother ran away and they never knew where he was, nobody knows in any of the family members' minds where that person is. And I give them insight into where the person is and where they live and whether they're married, and details that can really put light on a family and help bring together somebody who might have been lost.
Very much so. I would probably say even closure, because if no one could provide those type of insights to what became of them, then what are they going to wonder all their life?
One young lady came to me, and she had strawberry blonde hair and green eyes, and she came to me and she seemed quite sad. And I said to her that she seemed quite sad, and she said, well, I've always felt like an outsider. And that word, outsider, that just brought on a whole story, like a whole feeling. And I said, you don't know your real father. And she started crying, and she said, yes, I do. And I said, the man that is claimed to be your father is your mother's husband. I said, no one in his family has had red hair or green eyes. No one in your mother's family has green eyes or blonde or red hair. She said, yeah, you're right. She says, my father treats all the other children different than me. And I said, do you know that you have a father that looks so much like you, and he lives in Tampa? And she started crying and crying. I couldn't get her to quit crying. I said, you have two sisters that look just like you. You know, she ended up going to Tampa and meeting them, and that changed her whole life.
I'll bet.
But her mother hates me. So sometimes honesty and integrity brings light, but some people don't want to live in the light. They don't want to live in the truth. So they say the truth hurts. I tell them being intimidated, being inhibited hurts. Because what our soul is here for is to grow and learn and to expand. It's not to hold back and block yourself.
Do you help people achieve their potential? Maybe they didn't realize they were a natural surgeon or a concert pianist, and when they come see you, do you help them cultivate?
I do that every day, but the one thing I have to say this is you are absolutely, totally unique. There has never been a you before in this physical form. Your parents made love or whatever, and you are one of a kind. They can take a piece of your hair and tell you from all humans that's ever lived. They can take saliva from your mouth and tell who your great-great-grandfather was and where he lived. Well, I can do some of those things through my gift, not me, but my gift. And I'm able to say things that sometimes, like your great-grandfather might have been a pianist, or your mother might have had a gift and was told that it was nonsense. And you may have gifts that no one else has because you are truly unique. So the soul, the energy inside you is never destroyed. Energy is never destroyed. So this energy has a purpose for being here, and I try to give you not what you should do, but what you should believe in. Not just what you should do or want, what you need to do. And so I give you a lot of information that would be something that clicks and makes you go, oh, the light's been turned on.
That's fascinating. For you to be able to use your gift in a way to transform those lives, it's beyond what anyone is probably doing right now. And it's a good thing that your experience with Dr. Jones has led you onto a path that's definitely been verified by science in so many different ways. So, Mr. Bose, I want to thank you for inviting me to your home today.
Thank you.
And we're going to maybe do a couple more topics on other dimensions and the brain's ability to perceive that.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
This is what I needed, John.
I know.